So welcome to the Art of the Gem. I'm so excited for this one because one great thing about jewelry is you always have more room for jewelry. So it's art that we can wear that doesn't take up wall or floor space. And if you need fabulous jewelry, you are in the right place. So today is our excellent panel who are all experts in gems and also in the design of jewelry. So we'll let everybody kind of get settled. If you need refreshments, come on over here. And I'm going to start by introducing, right next to me is Paul Farmer, who you split your time between here and Colorado. What's the best of both worlds?
Yes, I do.
Yes, very well done.
I have a tough life. I live in Vail, Colorado during the rest of the year, and I'm down here for 3 months, so it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice gig. Especially, you know, you stay just enough to enjoy the snow and then get out of here, get out of there.
I had 2 weeks of snow this year. That was it. Perfect.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
And then right over here, we have another dual split your time. Isabelle lives here and in Anacortes, Washington. Did I say that right?
San Juan Islands, yeah. I'm in
Yes.
Anacortes. So, and then I have a house in Phoenix. So both places are great.
Yay. And then next to her is Luciano Bortone from Laguna Beach. Yes. So, and some of the people on the panel might be shy and others are not. So I'll let you figure out who that is. But anyway, the gemstones are so fascinating to me because when I was growing up, I thought sapphires were all blue and, you know, tourmalines were either pink or green. But what I've learned, garnets were all like red, but one of the things I've learned from all of you is the range of colors that any different gemstone can have. But before we dive into that, Paul, why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into jewelry design and maybe one or two things that you love most about what you do?
Okay, so I took a jewelry class, and I had someone in the family who was also a jeweler. That first pair of earrings I made, I need to teach you to be a goldsmith, and that was it. So from there, I went on, but I took a lot of gemology classes, so I'm a gemologist. I studied a lot of stones. I love gemstones and pick really rare stones. And so I just try to find something that, you know, is really nice that people don't see normally. And as you said, sapphires are not just blue. They are all colors in the rainbow, except for red. And the red ones we call rubies. They're all the same stone. Okay, so how many knew it? There you go. So there's just all kinds of a myriad of colors. And so I select the stone and then I build my piece around the stone. So it really, the design encompasses what the stone has. And that's how I do my work.
That's very good. And I think you'll all kind of talk more about that because the stone is the centerpiece and it really drives or dictates the design. But each of you have such beautifully unique design qualities too. So we'll talk a little bit more about your granulation next round. So for you, Isabelle.
So my background is architectural interior design, and I started doing jewelry when the economy was kind of changing and I wasn't doing a lot of fun interior design projects. So I took a jewelry class and I fell in love with something I could design and hold in my hands in a few days versus like 2 years on a project. And I love color. And so I am not educated in gemology, but I read a lot of books and I know what great stones are. And so I also handpick gemstones based on the cut, the quality. Also, I've worked with some of my jewelry vendors to buy gems for almost 30 years. So I also trust that I'm getting the right stone and the quality I want. And then I design around those stones. So.
And speaking of it, what are the 4 C's? Do you remember?
Well, it's color, carat, clarity, cut.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily in that order. They kind of have a rhythm to it, but
Not to be confused with
But
the
that's
5
for
C's of
diamonds.
Arizona.
But that's
for
for diamonds.
Yeah.
Yes, hello.
Tell us about why you love what you do.
Well, originally, as a young boy, I wanted to be an architect. But but my uncle, who lived on the opal field, kept buying me tickets from Sydney to go and visit him in Coober Pedy in the desert. And that's where I learned how to cut opals. When I came to California 37 years ago, I started doing trunk shows for Nordstrom's, who at the time only had 7 stores. And they said, oh, we love your opals. We think they're gorgeous, but you have to find a goldsmith to mount them. So that way we could buy them. And I thought for a little while, and I thought, you know, maybe I can do this. So I made my first 3 little rings for Nordstrom's. They put me in their Christmas catalog. They had 7 stores. Long story short, over a 10-year period, I was 3 times in their Christmas catalog and selling to all 30 Nordstrom stores and 200 independent stores around the country. But 22 years ago, that all stopped when I was accepted in Laguna Beach, the Pageant of the Masters, which you probably know this show was mimicked after the Pageant of the Masters. And I gave up the wholesale game and just started creating, designing around opals, which was a blessing in disguise because opals are very, very versatile. You can make doublets, you can make triplets, you can make solids. They come in all different shapes and sizes. So you have to be very creative to set these kind of stones because they don't conform to any shape, you know, like your ovals, diamonds, your rounds, your squares. Opals just come in so many shapes and forms. So it pushed my ability to design around them. And so I was very, very fortunate to be able to work with opals.
Could you talk to us a little bit about what the opal fields in Australia were like?
Well, originally I spent most of my time in Coober Pedy, which was the opal capital of the world at the time. And I just started cutting, and eventually coming to the States, I started selling the loose stone and getting involved also in the black opal and the Boulder Opal that comes from 2 different regions of Australia. A lot of people don't know that there's 4 different types of opal that come from Australia: the milky white, the crystal, the boulder, and the black. The black being the rarest of all stones. Opal is classified as one of the precious gemstones. Rubies, emeralds, sapphire, diamonds, and opals are precious stones. And once I started making jewelry for Nordstrom's and these other stores, my collection grew. But now opals have become very, very, very rare, where you can't even buy the raw or rough material anymore because the miners are very, very scared that they're going to lose, you know, a find in the opal in the rough, and so they process everything. They want to uncover to see what's available. And so that's got me thinking that I should start adding to my opal collection and using other gemstones also.
Absolutely. Why not expand? But to me, the opal's always been really fascinating. And am I correct that it's more of a soft stone, or does it depend on the type of opal it is?
A lot of people have this misconception that opals are fragile. They're not fragile. These are store owners that have jewelry stores that don't carry opal. And so they will tell you that opal is fragile, but it's not. Glass is 5.5 on the Mohs scale. Opals can be 6 to 7. So that's not soft. I've shown people continuously how opal can scratch glass very, very easily. These are store owners that will tell you opals are soft because they want to sell you something else they have in their case.
Aha. Different motive there. Okay, well, that's good to know. So again, opals are so fiery and so beautiful in all the different kinds, but every stone is. And one of the things that captures my eye a lot with yours is the faceting. You showed me a piece yesterday, but tell me about some of your favorite stones. I think you have one right next to you and right behind you in this beautiful imagery.
Okay, so this stone right here is called Trapeze Emerald. It's a very rare emerald. It only happens in Colombia.
Trapeze?
Trapeze.
Trapeze.
And basically, emeralds are a six-sided crystal. So they start out looking like this. It's kind of hard to see if you're way in the back, but so they are a six-sided crystal. And when it starts with a little seed of a six-sided crystal, and then it grows larger and larger, and it grows outwards, upward, downward. And in this case of, so all emeralds will grow that way, but in the case of this emerald, it picked up carbon in the growth axis of the stone, so it leaves that star in there, and that's all created by nature. It's all natural. And so I've started collecting these about 25 years ago, and I was really happy when I found a 1 carat that was perfect. And so I went on for many years. It probably took about 10 years until I found some larger ones. They just weren't very big. And I found a source for them. And so I have a beautiful one that's, about 5 carats. It's the best one I've ever had. And it's absolutely stunning. I just finished the piece yesterday. So in the end, you can come up and take a look at it. But they're just extremely rare. They also have cat's eye. So there's a shimmer going through the stone. So just like a cat's eye, and you just get that shimmer. So those are the kinds of things that excite me. And we just keep going, and you find different things like that. And then there's faceted stones, there's tourmaline and spinel, sapphires, all kinds of things like that.
Is it hard to, I mean, obviously these are very rare, and I would just want to ask, so this is a 6-sided stone, and is that like the perfect division into 6 pieces?
Yes, it is 6 pieces, and they're never exactly perfect. So
Okay.
they'll be a little bit off. But you know, the closer you can get it to perfect and centered in the stone, that's even more rare. But they're just, I might see 5 when I go shopping for these gemstones, and I'll look at thousands and thousands of stones, and there might be 4 or 5 trapeze, and then some years there might be 10, and the next year there might be 1. So it's just a very rare stone.
Would you consider yourself like a stone hoarder? Like, do you go, oh, I have to keep all of them?
What do you think, Isabelle?
He has a lovely collection, and I think I do as well, and I'm sure you do.
Yeah, we're all stone addicts.
Yeah.
Definitely.
We should never go to the Tucson Gem Show again, but we do every
Because you
year.
might miss out on something.
We might, yes.
FOMO,
we
yes.
have to look for things that are new and different cuts, because I don't cut things out of raw stone. I look at a stone and I'm just fascinated that somebody would look at something and how do they know what's in there? Because every stone needs to be cut a certain way and polished a certain way. And so for me, it's just the a quality stone and the cut is interesting, and then I get to play. But I don't always find match stones. So that's why I have my dance partner earrings, which is what Susan and I are wearing, the mismatched pairs, which some people are concerned I wasn't paying attention when I made them. But I like gemstones, and my biggest sellers are earrings. So I need to play with all these beautiful stones I pick, because it's, I pick them, the cut, the quality, and just the size and shape. And that's the fun part for me, is to hunt for those pieces.
And I love that you honor the artistry of the stone and realize that you don't have to match, and you can. Now my friend Lana, who's very classic, she's like, oh, I couldn't do that, but I can, because I'm a little bit out there. But it is fun because it's all about the stone, and then you pair them with others that play well with them.
Yeah, they have to
And-
match in cohesiveness, the color and the length. So I keep it as a dance partner, you know.
It's such a beautiful thing. And you're known, that's like one of your signatures. You have another signature look that I love. I have.
That's my
your-
satellite series. So this is like the ring here is this one here with the rhodolite garnets, and I have a ruby and rubellite, pink sapphire and diamond. And then this is one of my pendants here on the poster. This is another one I have here on the case. So I love playing with both precious and semi-precious gemstones together, and color is really important. So if you walk by my booth, every case has different colors of gemstones, because I know everyone likes their favorite colors. So I need to have, you know, all the different gems, you know, represented. And it's funny when I look at gems with Paul, oh, that's a Paul stone. And, you know, I won't buy certain stones because I know those are his stones, like, you know, well, the Trapeze I won't touch. Those are definitely his. But I like the blue zircons, and you have the sphenes, which are the yellow, beautiful faceted ones. So there are different stones that certain artists I know are known for, opals being Luciano's pieces. So there are things that we each
both
have our
leave the
own.
opals to Luciano.
Yeah.
He's the expert.
He's the
You want
king
an
of
opal?
opals.
He's the man.
No
Thank
doubt.
you, thank you.
No, it is fun. And each of you have your favorite sources of where you find your, you know where you're going to go. They all leave the week of the Tucson Gem Show, but they take turns, like each one goes for a day. And you kind of go with a mission, but you probably frequently come back with things you didn't expect you needed.
That would be an understatement.
Needed or wanted.
Well, I go, I mean, I have a lot of stones, so I go down with a list of what I need, of the things that I really need to find, because and sometimes my list includes things I have lots of, but I sell enough of them that I have to find them now, because otherwise in a year I'm going to be running out and they may not be there. So freshwater pearls, where, you know, there were tons of them before, and now they're all being sold in China. They're not even bringing them over here. So just trying to find something like that, I was like, oh my God, there used to be tables and tables of them, and they're just gone. They're not there. So you just have to look ahead, buy those things, but then you go, wow, I haven't seen that stone in 4 years. I'm going to buy it now. And that one over there, oh, that one, look at that blue sapphire. I have to have that. So if you find something that you haven't seen in a long time, you just buy it, because you may not see it again for another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, it's like a candy store. You want to, and then you realize, oh, well, I have a budget, which is not always that fun. So I was reading, it was the Rob report. It was after the AGTA Gem Show, and they were talking about some of the stones that were at the show that I don't remember seeing because they weren't interesting to me necessarily. They're huge stones that were like $100,000, and there were some others that were, I think 80,000. And then there was a huge set of something, I think, I can't remember who bought it, but those are the things that you see down there, and they're fascinating to see. That's not what I design with, but it's amazing that nature makes those beautiful pieces that are just flawless. And yeah, and then the value of things. I had one year I went with a client and we were looking at pearls, South Sea pearls. And she wanted to match one, and we found a beautiful strand, and it had taken them 10 years to find a graduated strand. And I think it was like $120,000, which she decided that she really did not want. Even though it was the wholesale price, but it was like she had a new respect for how things are put together. So we found some other beautiful things, and it was a small strand. And then she wanted her fancy earrings. So there are amazing stones that are out there that are not in our realm of designers, but it's fun to see.
One time I had a photo shoot and I got to wear the beautiful Tahitian pearls of yours. I'm like, oh, I really should have gotten those. So pretty. But the other part about each of you, we talked a little bit about your signature. You do a lot of what's called granulation. And I'm curious, and I would think others would be like, how do you decide what is the appropriate setting for the stone? I mean, do you let this, I think somebody already kind of said the stone speaks to you. Do you ever have the design first and then you find the stone, or is it usually stone dictates design?
Okay, so there's different ways of doing it. I have other friends who are goldsmith as well, and they may design a ring and then they go, okay, I need to have a stone for that. So they go and have calibrated stones cut for that ring. And it's nice. Okay. But for me, I like to design around that stone. So I'll make the bezel first. I'll start the ring. I'll make the bezel, and then I go around. I make the design around that stone. Some things are geometric, some things are not. So it really changes how I want the ring to look. And that's the artistry in it. And for me, I just feel like if I put the stone up first and design around it, and sometimes I do drawing, sometimes I don't. This is a free-form piece that I made for the Spectrum Awards, which is the AGTA, the Tucson show. And I didn't win, but it's a hell of a piece.
Yeah, you guys, you all need to come up after and look at it.
Yeah, you'll have to look at it. This is one of a kind, abalone pearl, which is natural pearl. It's huge. There's tourmaline, that's a free-form cut. I have, let me see what's in there. Montana sapphire, tourmaline, and this spins, so it's not just
It's
one thing.
two-sided.
It's four-sided. It's 360. So there's red, like a spinel, zircon. I have some sapphires in here, and then this is a handmade chain. But I use granulation, and the way I did it is abalones will grow in kelp beds. So I did kelp, so there's wire going up, and the little granules are golden. It looks like kelp. So that was part of my design. So obviously I designed around the stone. It really makes a big difference.
Absolutely. That is like a breathtaking piece. And I'm so proud of you for making it and sharing it with us. And you have another stone that we all kind of know you for, which is sphene. And
Okay.
try to describe sphene, because I don't think we have any pictures of it.
Okay, I do have some sphene up here. You're not going to be able to see it all the way back there, but if you want to come up afterwards and take a look at it. And it's
I'll hold it up to you.
these, hold on a second, because these will fall out. Oh, there we go. Just hold that. So it's SPHENE. And it's like sphere, but with an N. So and its true name, its mineral name is titanite because it has titanium in it. So it's a titanium silicate. And what happens is that it's almost like glitter is packed in the stone. So it has this play of color. And
Hold your microphone a little closer.
Okay, diamonds have play of color, and it's called dispersion. So you see a white diamond and it has blues and reds and greens coming out. That's dispersion. This stone has probably 4 or 5 times the amount of a diamond. It looks fake. It's not. It's real. It's Mother Nature. It's a fabulous stone. So I've been dealing with these for a long time. Made some beautiful pendants and beautiful earrings. And I do have a few loose stones that are left, and a couple really nice big green ones that comes in a couple different colors, green, brown, and then the gold, which she's showing now.
Yes, I have to go over here. So it's like a golden yellow, but it's got all these other colors you described as dispersion.
Dispersion. And the really cool thing is you can be like at a candlelight dinner, very little light around. It will just pick up any little light and just throw it back out. It's just an amazing stone.
Yeah, it would be better if I had good light on this, but yeah, it is like glitter is what you said, right? So
These came from Madagascar. but it will actually occur in Madagascar. Anything that comes from Madagascar is also on the coast of Africa, and also Sri Lanka and India, because they were all one continent at one point. So all those stones, a lot of sapphires come from that area. Yeah, there's just a big amount of gemstones that come from there.
I think it would be interesting to talk more about where some of our favorite stones. I mean, obviously we know Australia is opals, right? I mean,
Yes, Australia, 90% of world opal comes from Australia. Opals, a lot of people don't realize it, but they are the easiest stone to understand if you see this 4 different varieties. Whereas most other gemstones, you do need a microscope or really have to know what you're looking at besides an opal. An opal can be defined pretty easily by compared to other gemstones. And there is one other thing that wasn't mentioned. We as goldsmiths make things in miniature. And so it's very, very difficult for people to understand the quality that we make. Because it's not like looking at a painting, you can see a big painting, you can see the colors and everything. Here's everything in miniature. And so you have to have either an eye or trust your goldsmith in what they're presenting you with, because a lot of people think that we just make jewelry. We're not in the jewelry category. We're not in the jewelry shop category. We make one-of-a-kind, unique pieces that people just don't see or understand the first time they come to our booth.
yeah, and I think that's really the fact that you early on were selling at such a high level to Nordstrom's and other retailers, you're wholesaling, but your desire really to create unique, one-of-a-kind, artistic, beautiful things is what made you go on your own.
Exactly, because Nordstrom's and by other independent jewelry stores, they wanted the same thing over and over and over again. And I would make beautiful one-of-a-kind pieces, and they would say, Lou, what's the use of putting a one-of-a-kind piece there when we're just going to sell it once? We want something there that we can repeat. Well, that's why 22 years ago, I stopped selling to jewelry stores, because opals became very, very, very difficult to obtain. And so you couldn't produce consistently like they did 30 years ago when they discovered the milky white opal that most women are accustomed to when they think of opals. So the milky white opal came out in abundance in Coober Pedy, and so the Asian market calibrated the stones, put it in Asian jewelry, and sold it to department stores here in America. Well, that has completely stopped more than 10 years ago because of the fact that there is no more milky white opal. Any opal that you see today that's from Australia is one of a kind, unique pieces. The difference is who makes them and what the quality is of the goldsmith that's using them. Yeah.
And see, what we celebrate here is that unique, beautiful, original work that each of you were put here to create for all of us to enjoy. And we don't need carbon copy. And by the way, every one of you, I'm pretty sure, will work with customers on custom pieces. Is that correct?
Yes. As some people know out here. Yes, we all do custom pieces. I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure about, you probably do.
I don't do many custom pieces. I just pretty much sell what I have.
But I
rarely do I make custom pieces. People just fall in love with something that I've made and they'll buy that straight away,
I do a lot of custom work. I do a lot of repurposing of people's jewelry because people have pieces that they love or there's a story with that they want to wear, but it's not really their style. I have a couple of clients now have pieces that they're wearing. But my thing is, if I will rework with your stones, but it needs to be in my style.
Yes.
Because I only know how to work with, wire and sheet and bend and solder. I don't cast anything. These are one of a kind pieces that are handmade. So, and there are stones that I try to avoid, like emeralds. I do have to be careful with things that are clients' stones. I do a little drawing, I do a little sketch. We do, I take a photo of something else that they might have liked of mine. And I work with them to get something that they will love and appreciate, and something that means something. So like the satellite piece here, I've done with the client's stone as her stone in the middle, and then her kids' first stones and the grandkids. So, there's a story. And like Wendy's, bracelet, those were all pieces from different rings that she had. So then you have something that has a meaning. You still, because the stones that came out of whatever, if it was a ring or bracelet, might have meant something from somebody as a gift, but now it's put into something, that's something you will wear, a new piece. So.
One of the things I love about today is how many people have shown up wearing jewelry from their favorite designers. So I think that's great. Yes. So much fun. It's a great way to express ourselves. So another thing that I'm looking at your Labradorite necklace. I want to talk a little bit about that. And then I think it would be fascinating if each of you would share a little bit about some of the tools that you use to create your works of art. So this is a Labradorite piece, which Labradorite comes from Canada and Finland and also Madagascar, but this is from Canada. And then I purchase the beads, and then I go through and make sure everything is drilled properly and there's no little flaws. But I do the gold work on each piece. And so a lot of the stones I use are semi-precious stones, but I'm looking for the best of that quality. So as clean as material as you can find. Same with all of my other stones. And so you were asking about tools that we're using. So I use a lot of hand tools and forming and a rolling mill too, because I do sheet and wire and bend and solder the materials, and roll with textured paper to get my little ribbons for the pieces. So each one comes out a little bit different. Hand tools, I use a lot of hand tools. Then I also have a Fordham. I have 3 different ones. One's where it has a little sanding disc, one's a quick change little with different tools on it, and one's a hammer piece. And I have a bench here and at my house at home, and then also my other studio. So then I have pretty much the same tools I reach for in the same places. So I can get my work done somewhat efficiently. And there's torches involved.
I have a little tiny Smith torch. So here at this home, I have propane and an oxygen generator. At my other home, I have a natural gas line with a torch booster and oxygen. Also Smith torch. So it's the same little torch. It's just a different, a fuel source.
Like creme brulee thing.
Okay.
Oh, well, she works with this little tiny torch, and I'm not for that. Okay. Mine has a huge flame, and I'm going to show you about how big it is. The flame is huge, but it's a reduction flame. And my torch is it's a German torch. They've been using them for, I don't even know, 100 years. I have no idea. But it actually has a blowpipe. So I supply the oxygen. She's using oxygen. I supply my own, and I have to do circular breathing to keep the heat the same the whole time. But it's very, very controllable. I've got it down. I've been doing it for a long time, and it's kind of insane, but in the same space, I'm breathing into the piece, and as I make the piece. So I do a little bit different work. We do different work. It's kind of interesting because we're all 3 completely different as far as the way we approach what we're doing. So I'm a goldsmith.
But you're all fabulous.
We are, and that's what's great. It's all artistry. So I'm a goldsmith. So I take 24 karat gold and silver, a little bit of copper, and I mix that all together. So I melt it, I stir it with a graphite rod, pour it into an ingot, And then Isabelle talked about a rolling mill is something that flattens and presses the metal and it compresses it to be wire or sheet. And then I draw the wire through draw plates that are tapered holes into different sizes. So this is all done by hand. All my pieces are made by hand. And then I do a technique called granulation. And it's little tiny spheres of gold, like on here. And those are all made from wire. And when I heat the gold, it'll actually ball up. So I make a bunch of those in different sizes. Then I paint them on with a paintbrush, a little bit of glue and some flux. It's an acid. And then I fuse that on at about 1800 degrees. And that's with that big, huge flame. I mean, it's massive. You walk by and go, Paul, you're being careful, right? I haven't burned myself yet, so I think after 30 years, I'm probably
You're
pretty
well
careful.
contained. Yep, you've got it covered for sure. But yeah, it's fascinating to watch that and the circular breathing. That's good. We should all learn to do that. Calm ourselves down. Luciano, what kind of tools? And also, if you could speak a little bit to how you've branched out into different metals and stones.
Well, originally, as I said, I was an opal cutter. And when I approached Nordstrom's and they told me to find somebody to make jewelry, which I did, I used the lost wax casting method. But 37 years ago, when I first started doing inlay, which is that kind of work, where the opal is inlaid into a void, I said to myself, how can I do perfect voids? So I had a Hungarian friend who was a machinist, and he said, Lou, you need a mill. So with the mill, I started carving my waxes and making perfect channels, just like they do now using CAD. So 37 years ago, I was already making CAD-looking pieces using hand tools or whatever was available to make perfect channels like you see here. And Nordstrom's loved it because I was the only one to ever make single pieces of opal inlaid into a channel. Everybody else was making tiny little pieces of opal with a thin piece of gold or silver next to it. And that used to break my heart because I used to see all this fantastic opal being chopped up like salami and putting into these little tiny voids. And I thought, well, I can do better than that. I'll use single pieces of opal. So I became very, very well known for just single pieces of opal inlaid in voids. Then eventually 22 years ago, when I went away from the wholesale market and started showing in Laguna Beach, that's where I started producing other pieces besides inlay using the solid stone, as you can see here. This is a very, very simplistic design where I'm just showing the stone and not much of the metal. But this is where the direction where I wanted to go, is to create one-of-a-kind pieces around single beautiful opal stones.
And then a couple years ago, you brought some pieces, the Boulder Opal, I hope I'm saying that right, in silver.
Well, yes, because I'm trying all different materials and experimenting and things like that, I came across this Boulder Opal, which we call in Australia picture Boulder Opal, where you see more of the boulder stone and less of the opal. So the price of the opal is considerably lower than your regular opal. And so I started putting it in silver. And that was something that was pretty unique and different from anybody else. I had never seen anyone else use as much extensively as I did. And so that was a test, something for me to try and something new. You know, we're always trying something new and different, and some things work and some things don't.
And then again, I hope I'm getting this right. You have another beautiful inlay bracelet that I believe is black jade.
Black jade, yes. Black jade from Australia. There's only two real areas that I've purchased black jade from. One is Wyoming and the other is Australia. I like the Australian one because it's it's much easier for me to obtain. And it is called black jade, but if you were to put it right near a light source, you would see that it's extremely dark green, almost black. And that's something that I tried to bring more of that to the show, but I just didn't have time to finish the collection. But something a little bit different from the onyx, which onyx is a very, very brittle material, and there's so much of it, and it's treated. The black jade is not treated. It's extremely strong. It's a 7 to an 8 hardness. And plus it gives you a little bit of an earthy feel to it compared to the onyx, you know. So you'll probably see more things like that from me in the future.
Excellent. I love it. Yeah, and you'll want to go look closely at that bracelet as well. And one of the things I love about Isabelle, you mentioned it earlier, is how you organize by color. And I think it's interesting. You were an architect. You thought about being an architect. A couple of years ago, we did a panel on the architectural influence of jewelry, because you really do see that as you walk around and you look at the design composition of a lot of the jewelry we have here. But back to your color organizing, it's such a beautiful way. And do you have like favorite stones and colors that you lean to all the time?
My favorites are usually the tourmalines, because I love so many different colors of the greens, and then there's the pinks as well. It's just a fascinating stone. And then it's also watermelon tourmaline with the green and the pink on the inside. So it's amazing what nature has. Then as far as color, I find that everybody does have their favorite. So it makes it easy to lay it out in the cases, because it's funny, somebody goes right to the blues. That's what they like. They don't even look at the other colors, or right to the oranges. So it's also, color is something that we all associate with differently. So we have our favorites that way. So that's just kind of how I just lay it out, because what I'd like is color. So I've done the bigger stones that are more of the semi-precious, and then just a few precious pieces in between, the sapphires and, you know, a few little diamonds, but I like color. So that's how I get to play.
And this pink tourmaline with gold little necklace is beautiful. Talk about how that came about.
So I had 2 strands that I found a couple of years ago with the pink tourmaline, and it was really clean material. And the client who purchased it needed a little bit longer, so I just took pieces from the other ones that worked. And then I did not have quite enough to make a full necklace. I don't even think it was 14 inches, because some of the pieces, when you purchase in a strand, because they're already temporarily strung, are not always drilled perfectly, or there's a little flaw, or there's a little chip or something in the stones that happen. So I look at every piece before I use it. So I really didn't have enough for a full necklace, but I thought, oh, if they were around my studio for a while, I'm like, I'm going to put some gold pieces that I made, the gold pieces in between. And I did that with a green tourmaline necklace as well, which somebody purchased, which was great. So it was kind of fun to do something very different and more gold versus all gemstones. But with all the pieces that are in my cases, that even if there are beads, there needs to be a piece of me in there. So I have my time ribbon beads that I have done for the round beads, or I make them oval, whatever the shape of the bead is, because that's one of my signature pieces, and that's been published in a couple of books. The clasps I make. So even though I buy things that somebody else has cut, when I do the gold work, it needs to be my pieces in there. And I know, like Paul made the chain and the clasp, and those are the details that we like to do, because it makes the piece really special. And if you look at Luciano's piece, every little piece, it's amazing how it's made. So very precise.
Do you have a favorite stone cutter that you go to?
I don't really have a favorite stone cutter, but as far as like gem dealers, I work with several people, and they're people. They're in the business. We're all. It's kind of like us as artists. There's gem dealers, and you find out which ones are good, which ones you're going to find. Because for me, I want to find a really well cut stone that really speaks to me. Sometimes I'll go to the gem shows. One year I decided I'm going to try different shows. I went to 6 different shows and I came back with 3 stones. That was it, because that's all that spoke to me. I went back to my regular people the next year, or the next week. I went a week later, and I came back with just a trove of treasures. And it was great because they had I know that whoever they're using to cut their stones, it's a well cut stone. It really speaks to you. The stone pops, and that's what makes the difference for me. And what else I was going to say? So I mean, that's kind of what we do. We know how to pick stones. That's what the reality is. Like, his opals are just fantastic. He
Well-
knows how to pick opal.
Okay, I mean, we're talking about stones, but really, you guys are top goldsmiths. And that's something that's not spoken about because people just don't see the miniaturization of what we do.
Little sculptures,
Little
Architecture.
sculptures.
wearable art. We all
Exactly.
have room for wearable art, and it makes me happy.
And you were mentioning where we get stones from. So some of the vendors that I have purchased stones from over the years, I've known for 25 to 30 years, and I have a great rapport with them. And they'll call me up and say, I just got this new material. Would you like to see it? And they'll come to my studio and we'll sit at the biggest table, sometimes at the dining room table, and we'll go through and I get to look at all these stones firsthand with, you know, really take time and look at things and pick. And then I go back, I'm like, I need to go run to my studio, see if I have something that matches this. And, or it just, that's what I did last April after the show here. 6 hours, we sat and looked at things, and then we had lunch, and it was just, I have a rapport, and he'll call me during the year. I'm down in Brazil. I found this stone. I'm going to come next week. I'll be in your area. Can I come by? You know, and so they know which stones that we like as well. And so they can send us these, they call them pick boxes. So we can pick things from, you know, boxes. So we don't always get to see them, you know, at the gem show during the year. That's once a year, the big one. But we can get to meet with them throughout the year via, you know, sending a little box of goodies.
I used to know a guy who was a diamond dealer, and he would travel a lot, and he would, you know, just have the diamonds like in his jeans pocket and like look real low key, because he didn't, you know, obviously he didn't want people to know he was loaded with diamonds. But it's got to be a really fun business. So what's the farthest you've ever traveled for a stone? Did you ever go to Brazil? Or you've been to Australia?
Well, actually, I had a customer in Laguna Beach who purchased a very expensive pendant from me, and after we had settled on the price and everything, he says, "By the way, can you make me earrings, ring, and pendant?" And I said, "Well, I might have to go to Australia for that." And so I did. I went to Lightning Ridge because it was black opal. And I have very, very good friends in Australia that I grew up with that are in the industry. And so I went hunting for black opals. Black opals, you cannot buy the rough. You can only buy the stones, or rubs, as they call them. In other words, the miners will just rub the stone a little bit so they can see that they're not missing out on a $100,000 stone. And so you can purchase those for a little bit better price than a stone that's completely cut. But yeah, that's I made a trip to Australia, and I spent about $50,000 and came back and made the customer very happy.
See, you do custom work, but only for,
Well,
It's
here I
about the
don't,
stone.
but in Laguna I do.
Well, I do recall the one gentleman that you've been on the hunt for an opal that he wants, and you will find it for him. And
Oh yes, I mean, when I go to Tucson, I go and hang with some of my Australian friends, and so I get the luxury to look at millions of dollars worth of opal, and my ability to pick opals, because you have to have almost a photogenic mind to when you see an opal, and to be able to compare it to other opals and buy it at the best possible price. This is my greatest ability. So when I present an opal finished in a piece, you can be assured that you're not going to find it anywhere for any better price than what I'm selling it for.
that's the value of knowing the artist and the stone collector. So I'm certain there's people who have questions, but I do want to kind of circle back to Luciano, what you said about each of you are brilliant artists. You said goldsmiths, which is true, but you're the brilliant artist who brings to life the combination.
I like to think that we're artisans. We're true artisans. And in this country, unfortunately, a goldsmith or an artisan is not looked upon as an artist. But we truly are artists, because we can sketch, we can draw, we can make, etc., etc., etc. And as you've seen, probably there's a couple of other silversmith, goldsmiths that are actually showing some of their ability for creating wall art, and you can see how they stand out, you know. So we have we have an ability that a lot of people don't really see, because it's all miniature.
I love that interpretation. It is miniature sculpture. So yes, let's see.
One thing about Luciano, and I've got lots of his stuff, but he went to Tucson and saw this opal, and he said, I have to have it for you. And he brought the opal back, and he went through and we communicated by email a number of different designs on how to best show that opal. And it is an absolutely incredible piece. The picture of it is actually on his website. And it goes so well with the other things that I bought from him that he didn't design specifically for me, but it all started with a bracelet, and then the ring followed, and then the pendant, the first pendant, which he designed, and then the one that I just got here a few weeks ago. But so he takes the time to create different designs that will best fit the opal shape, and it's beautiful work. And I mean, I see how you all do the same similar things, and as you say, there's always room for jewelry.
Luciano, can you tell me again why the opals are rare, getting more rare in Australia?
Well, for 30, 40 years, Australians have been saying opals are rare, they're getting rarer and rarer, but all the time you see them here, you see them there. You go to Tucson and you see millions of dollars worth, but people don't realize or understand that that's the world inventory. World inventory. And if you compare the world inventory of opals to any other gemstone, you will see and understand why opals are really the rarest stone on the face of the planet. Now, the last 10 years, I stopped buying rough or raw opal just because I can't find the quality anymore. They're just not available. And so I have to resort to buying stones that are cut, semi-cut. Maybe I'll recut them into something. But my cutting now is just with the inventory that I have. But as far as buying more of it, I can tell you there isn't any opal. In the last 5 years, opals have doubled in price. The next 5 years, they will double again. And probably, I mean, they still are the rarest, but they'll become even rarer. You don't see them in department stores anymore. The milky white opal, you don't see it anymore. The inlay opal like this bracelet here, I will not be able to make another bracelet like this. I challenge anybody in the world to make another bracelet like this. It's not possible. There is no opal like this to buy anymore, let alone 60 hours of work in putting it together, you know?
And when you experimented with putting the opal in silver, was that successful or not?
It was pretty successful, but again, when people look at opals, they're so used to seeing the milky white that when they see anything different, they don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so it's something that I have to slowly educate to make them understand,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, that's just the time thing. I mean, I'll educate somebody today, and maybe in 2-3 years' time, eventually they'll come around and they'll buy an opal. You know, they've done their research, they've Googled it, they've looked around, and then boom, they come straight back at me, and it's the easiest sale that I can make. You know.
We'll have to talk after the show.
It is interesting. I mean, we're talking about finite resources because these are all natural resources. There are some synthetically made stones, but we're talking about the real deal here. So it's like Sleeping Beauty turquoise. That when it's gone, unless somebody strikes a new vein somewhere else that we don't know about. But thank you, Luciano.
You mentioned the star quality of the emerald that you've got there. How do star emeralds compare, or don't they compare at all with things like star sapphires?
Okay, so those are two different things. For one, a star sapphire, it only occurs, the star only shows up when light source hits the stone. And that's because there's little rutile needles that are going through the stone, and they're all set up in that whole thing. They are a six-sided crystal as well. So they look like a six-sided star, but it's from light hitting it. This goes all the way through the stones. It's all the way through to the bottom of the stone. It's clear through. So it's always there whether you have a light source around or not. But those little needles and so forth I talked about with the light, it's called shotoyency. And so in here, it's hard to see in this photo, but if you look at this ring that I have here that I just finished, it has a cat's eye, so it shimmers back and forth. And that's the same type of thing going on in there.
Shotoyency.
Shotoyency, that's the new word
that?
for the day.
I feel like I'm at a spelling bee. That's
No, we're not
they said
passing
no
around.
passing, no passing. Are there other questions? Yes.
Okay. Paul, you and Isabelle mentioned Madagascar. My question is, did you actually have to go to Madagascar to look for stones? And we did go to Tucson one day for the gemologist show, and we went without one of you guys. And big mistake. And I think just like if we go to Santa Fe to Indian Market, we know the artist that we need to go to that has the best, silver and turquoise inlay. When you go to Tucson, do you do the same thing? Do you know the particular artists and where and stones that they're providing for you to buy?
Okay, well, that's what we were talking about. We deal with people we dealt with for a long time that have a similar idea of what our stones are. So we find that we work with And we go back to them over and over because we know they're going to have what we're looking for.
And then you just have to come here and get what they got, which is the best. And she does.
And so we've already selected it. We know what works and what's the best, and we found it. And I want to ask you one thing. Did you have a headache when you were done at the jump show?
Yes. We were there, I bet, 15 minutes and went, oh dear God, we're going to Tubac. No.
A little bit overwhelmed, like Las Vegas.
I have a pretty interesting question, I think, for all of you. All your work is exquisite. It's beautiful, but it's gauged towards the feminine side, if you will. And Paul's laughing at me because he made a ring for me that I'm wearing right now that is absolutely stunning. And I'm wondering, why is it market? Is it customers? Why? I've been coming to the show for many years. I see very little here for men.
So I have made men's jewelry. What happens is there's one or two pieces and they get sold right away, and it's just me making the work. So I have not made enough. So my goal next year, which was the goal this year, didn't happen, have a case of men's jewelry and have enough set up.
Yay, good.
Yeah, so I have done a lot of cufflinks, which that's not really great here in the Southwest. But I've done, like, I have one client who has 50 pairs of cufflinks and they're all gemstones. So, but nobody else got to see those. And I've done rings and bracelets. So I have done men's jewelry, but you're right. And we know there's a situation that we need to have more men's jewelry.
And the people behind you want to see your ring. It's a star sapphire, am I correct? Oh, it's great. Yeah, and a beautiful setting too. Nice quality of gold. 18.
Yes, 18 karat.
Player and wrestler, and I wear this all the time, and nothing happens to it. And I banged it, the normal things that you would do, and he keeps on kind of smoothing it out for me, and it's great.
And it is 18 karat gold.
It's 18
It's
karat
beautiful.
gold. I never have to touch a stone because it's sapphire, it's hard. So certain stones are really great for rings and certain stones are not. So sphene is a fabulous stone, but it's too soft to set in a ring. I don't make rings with it. I make earrings, I make pendants. But sapphires for men, if you're looking for a ring, you want a sapphire, something that's hard like that, or a diamond, ruby. You need a hard stone because they wear it all the time. And going back and talking about the men's jewelry, I only have so much time to make things, and I don't have enough made right now anyway. So the men's rings, and I'll do some men's rings again next year. I have a couple of stones that I think men have been attracted to, that I have loose stones in the case, and I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to make something for that. But Steve happened to walk in one day. It was toward the beginning of the show one year, and he looked at this ring that I had, and he goes, "Wow, I really like that. You know, I'm going to think about that. I'll come back tomorrow. I know I'm going to come get that." So the next day, a gentleman came in, and he saw the ring, and he bought it right then.
Oops.
And so Steve comes back the following day and he goes, "Oh, I didn't come yesterday because I went golfing." So what ended up happening was I said, "Well, look, I could custom make one for you because he has very large fingers, and it's like he said, he played football. So he just, I'm not even sure if that other ring would have fit. It was so big, but I found a bigger stone. I had a bigger stone, but I had an inventory of stones. So I custom made a ring for him."
That's so great. Good question. Then there's people who don't wear rings ever.
Yeah, you said something about star sapphires being very durable.
Yes.
I had one many years ago. It was small, but it got a crack in it. And I'm not very hard on things, but was it just not a good star sapphire? Maybe.
I mean, if you hit it the right way, maybe. It just depends on the stone. But you know, usually they're very, very durable. But even a diamond, which is the hardest substance in the world, okay, a
I've
diamond
cracked
can
one.
still crack. A diamond still, it has a cleavage point and it will still crack. They are not just completely, you can run a tank over it. No, you can't run a tank over it. It's not, you know, it's still, you hit it the right way, you hit it in a cleavage point, it will chip or crack.
Yeah, there was a corner on a square princess cut diamond gone. Yep.
Oh, so good, so good. Do we have any other questions? Yes, Wendy.
This one's for Luciano and talking about opals. And I just wondered if you had a comment about recently in the news, there's been an opal that was sold in Alaska that was in somebody's cupboard for a long time. I saw a photo of it and I would love to hear your interpretation.
Yes, Paul actually showed me the picture of the opal, and
We both had a laugh.
we calculated how many carats it was, and we divided it by, you know, what it would cost per carat, and I think it worked out to be about $12 a
It
carat.
was $12 a carat.
That was really very, 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 very low quality opal. But it sold for a lot of money because of the size, because of the uniqueness of the size. You know,
I think it was 143,000 or
Right,
something like
right,
that.
right, right.
But it was like the size of a brick. And it was actually split in half. It was huge. I don't remember how many carats it was.
I think 11,000 was it?
70,000?
11,000 carats or something.
No,
like
no,
that?
no. It was, I think it was bigger than
No,
that.
12.
But whatever, 143
Whatever, yeah,
divided by 12, we'll figure out the number. But it was a very large stone. But I was laughing. I came over to show it to him because I said, look at this. Look what someone paid for this. And it was just not a very nice stone.
And it wasn't loved and turned into something beautiful that we could wear.
Absolutely.
Hence the artisan. So, yes, you guys.
A lot of people don't realize that the very, very best opals to come out of Australia, like the black opal or Boulder Opal, never get seen by the public, never, because they go to private collectors. There's about 12 maybe big private collectors in America that have multi-million-dollar collections of opal. Stones that are just so unbelievable that I always thought to myself, if they could ever make a museum that they could show these beautiful stones, people would just be completely blown away. Because opals do not, of this quality that we're talking about, opals do not look like they come from this planet.
Can you tell me how the two of you knew the quality of that opal, that Alaskan opal, by looking at a photo?
Well, we have years of experience, don't we, Paul?
we do, but I mean, as soon as I saw it, it's like, okay, that's like, I didn't even know how to describe it. There was no color. There was very little color. It was like there was a spot of one of them, and it was barely a speck of color coming out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, do you believe that they paid $143,000? That's why I came over and showed it to them. Yeah, it was laughable.
Yeah, people get to see, you know, in the news, multi-million dollars worth of diamonds and rubies and emeralds and sapphires. But really, people just don't get to see a $500,000 opal or $1 million opal. They don't get to see it because if they ever did, they would not believe what they're seeing.
Now I'm really curious. I need to see that. Let's see if we can make that happen. But I
Maybe
wanted to-
one day I
maybe-
will bring some of those stones.
I will be here. Yeah. So I want to thank each of you, and I definitely would love each of you to come up here and then go to their studios to see up close fab stones beautifully set in artistry that we are so proud to share. So Paul is down the aisle in the corner on this side. Isabelle is about 2/3 of the way down and wrapping around toward the courtyard over here. And Luciano is just straight down to the back wall on this side. So please come up, ask questions, go visit their studios, and thank you all so very much.